You know, I really love my new Majestic playmat, but I don't know. There's something about it that really seems to bug me. What is going on, guys? This is Mack from Team Cardfighters United, and before I start, let's just take a moment to admire my amazing new playmat. Okay, moment of admiration is over. I am here for a budget deck profile. I've been waiting to do this for a while. I actually had it recorded and ready to go, but if you've been paying attention to the description, which you probably haven't been, my camera files got corrupted, so when I got my camera back, all the stuff was gone. So the stuff I've been posting recently is just stuff that I literally recorded the day I got back, and with the exception of the fight, which I had on the computer. So I'm going to go ahead and record this. This is post Fighters Collection 2016, so it does have the new 16 stride zone in mind. It is my Giraffa deck. Let's go ahead and get started. So for the starter, obviously, because it's a Giraffa deck, we run the Giraffa starter. His effect is when the grade 1 rides him, you search your deck for the grade 2, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. So pretty self-explanatory, easily gets you your ride chain, essentially. It just gets you your ride chain with the exception of the grade 2. All you need is a grade 1 in your hand. It's a pretty good card. Alright, moving on to grade 3s. I run 4 of the grade 3 Giraffa. Its skill is, if you have the grade 2 in the soul, it gains 1,000. That's not anything new. Its other effect is really bad, and I've only ever used it once, but I'll go ahead and go over it anyway. It is Counterblast 2 and choose 2 of your Mega Colony rear guards and retire them. When it hits, you can choose up to 2 of your opponent's grade 1 or less rear guards and retire them as well. It's kind of just a break even if you manage to hit, except the counterblasts are kind of stupid for it. Plus, it's not even remotely close to what Mega Colony should do, which is why I feel like it's a really bad skill. But regardless, I have used it before. It's not the worst in the world. Like, you can still use it. It's just not ideal. What you usually use this guy for is for the stride. Okay, moving on to my other grade 3. I run 4 Longhorn Hunter. Now this guy is a card that you definitely do not want to ride, but because of the grade 1 Giraffa and cards like Trighoul and stuff, you don't really have to worry about that usually. It's Longhorn Hunter. Its effect is G-Break 1, Counterblast 1 when it's placed on Vanguard or Rear Guard. You can choose one of your opponent's rear guards, rest it, and it cannot intercept or stand during your opponent's next stand phase. It's a very good card to call if your opponent's trying to counter your when every unit is rest thing by keeping one booster standing. But if you ride it beforehand, it's just really bad. So that's why I have grade 3 searchers in here. Now to grade 2s, we run 4 Elite Mutant Giraffa. This is the grade 2 and one of the strongest cards in the deck, believe it or not. Its skill is obviously if you have the grade 1 in your soul, it gains 1,000. And if it's on Vanguard and it hits another Vanguard, you can choose one of your opponent's rear guards and it can't stand during your opponent's next stand phase. So it's essentially a stun, and it's an on-hit stun on Vanguard, which adds pressure to the deck early. So you tend to stay on it a little bit, and you kind of take the sting of this guy, but it doesn't hurt too bad. So moving on, next grade 2 is 3 Tail Joe. Tail Joe is pretty simple. if all of your opponent's rear guards are rested, when it attacks, it gets plus 3,000. This is like all the time during your turn. So if they manage to get a stand trigger after you swing with this thing, and you have another one, the other one immediately goes back to being 8k. So it's a good card. It's a little bit situational, but it helps a lot with rushing. So yeah, Retail Joe. Last grade 2 is 3 Machining Papilio. It's pretty simple. If you have a Mega Colony Vanguard, when it's placed on rear guard, you can prevent a card from standing during the stand phase, so you stun something when it's placed. Don't really have to explain that. It's really good. Okay, moving on. For grade 1s, we have 4 of the grade 1 Giraffa. Its skill is if this one's in the soul, it gains 2,000 power, and when it's placed on rear guard, you can choose a Mega Colony grade 3 from your hand and discard it. And if you do, you search your deck for the grade 3 Giraffa, add it to your hand, and then shuffle. So again, it's a card that helps you get the grade 3 Giraffa to ride, because you don't want to ride this guy. So yeah. Plus it's a Giraffa card, and that will make, and the reason that that's important will become clear soon. Next, I run 4 Elite Mutant Trigul, the card that made this deck good in G regulation stuff. Its effect is at the beginning of your opponent's ride phase, if they have a rested unit, you look at the top 5 cards from your deck, search for a Giraffa card from among them, add it to your hand, and shuffle. So this also helps you get the grade 3 if you need it, and it also helps you get out of grade lock, which is very nice. As long as you can stun something, you can pull this off, and you can essentially get yourself out of grade lock. It's like a get out of grade lock free card. Next is 2 Mega Colony Battler B. Its skill is Counterblast 1. When an attack hits a Vanguard during the battle that it boosted a Mega Colony, then you can basically prevent something from standing, so you stun something if it boosts a hit. So this adds pressure to other rearguard columns, along with having the grade 2 Giraffa on Vanguard. That gives you 2 opportunities if you just have 1 on the field, and if you have all 3, then every single attack has a chance to stun something. So, very good card. Last grade 1 besides the perfect guards is Little Dorcas. It's the Stride Enabler. I only run 1 because, as I said before, this deck searches out grade 3s pretty easily, so you don't really have to worry about it too much, even though this deck is very Stride reliant. But you still want to have the ability to stride more if you run out of grade 3s, because you do search them and you do call grade 3s in this deck often. So Dorcas is definitely worth having at least 1 or 2 in here. I personally like 1 just because it's preference. And then 4 Sunny, just because I wanted to keep this deck really cheap, and Sunny was the cheapest option. When I bought it, it was like 90 cents. I think it went up a little bit. Not much though. But either way, it was still really cheap, and it's still cheap now. So if you've got one of those decks that has like $15 perfect guards, then go ahead and grab yourself a Sunny. Alright. Now on to the triggers. We've got 6 crit. No skills here. 3 draws, 4 heals, and then 3 Earth Dreamer. Its effect is G-Break 1. At the beginning of your opponent's ride phase, if the number of rear guards your opponent has is 3 or more, you may put this on the top of the deck. If you do, shuffle and draw 2 cards. I really just run this for the stand effect, but otherwise, if it does manage to get that effect off, it is very nice. So yeah, I run Earth Dreamer. I would just run any stand, but because it has an effect that is nice when it actually does go off, I figured why not. Clean this up a little bit, and then go into these strides. So first up we have, hang on, these are not sorted. Give me just 1 second. Let's see. These go here. This guy. These, and then the rest is fine. Okay, so for the first stride I show you, it is 3 Force Spear Mutant Deity Stun Beetle. Its effect is G-Break 2, Counterblast 2, and choose a face down card named him and turn it face up. If its attack hits, you may pay that cost, and if you do, stun your opponent's Vanguard, and they can't normal ride during their ride phase. So it's a very good card, but because it's an on hit, it almost never does hit, which is why you run 3, so that you can have 1 chance to go for it, and then if they stop it, then you still have 1 more chance to go for it. Very good card. Next, I have 1 Wildfire Mutant Deity Staggle Dipper. His effect is act once per turn, Counterblast 1, and choose a face down card from your G-Zone and turn it face up. Choose up to 3 of your units, and until the end of the turn, they all get 1,000 power for each of your opponent's rested units. So if they've attacked with everything on their board and they have a full board, you give 6,000 to 3 units of your choice. I usually pick the front row, but you can really just do whatever. This card is new from Fighter's Collection, so keep that in mind. Next, I run 2 Poison Spear Mutant Deity Paraspear. Its effect is when it's placed on Vanguard, rest all of your opponent's units, and if the number of rest units your opponent has is 3 or more, after you do that, you draw a card, and then it gets 5,000 power until the end of turn. It's a pretty decent card. It's really there for when your opponent's trying to keep that 1 unit standing, because then you can just mess with them, and it's very, very good. Next is the main boss card of this deck. 3 Evil Armor Mutant Deity Goliath. His skill is act once per turn, Counterblast 1, and if you have a heart card with Giraffa in its card name, you choose up to 6 of your units with Giraffa, and they get the abilities both if all of your opponent's Vanguards and Rearguards are rest, then they get 5,000 power, and when their attack hits, you can prevent a unit from standing. So, gives the deck a lot of pressure, gives it pumps to make it kind of scary to deal with between different turns, and overall it's just a very good stride. It made this deck good, and plus since it's so cheap because nobody likes it, it was definitely worth investing in. Now on to the last regular stride, and then we'll go into G Guardians. The last stride I run is Air Element Sea Breeze. Its skill is Counterblast 2. Choose a card from your hand and discard it. If you have a grade 3 Vanguard, the number of face-up cards in your G-Zone is 0. Your opponent's Vanguard is grade 2, and there was no unit placed on the Vanguard circle during the ride phase of your opponent's preceding turn. You can stride it from face down. So this is basically a grade 2 counter. So it's a grade 2 game counter. It is very good. I'm very, very glad that Bushiroad came out with this card, because it definitely counters a lot of decks. Kind of like this one, which is funny because I run it in here. But yeah, it is a very, very good card. And it's splashable anywhere, which is why I have one in here. I will put a Blizza in, but right now my friend has my Blizza, so I have to go get it. So just keep in mind that I will be using Blizza when I get that. Okay, on to my G Guardians. I run 2 Dream Mutant Deity Scarab Gas. I think that's how you pronounce that. It's spelled weird. Anyway, its effect is when it's placed on Guardian Circle, if the number of your opponent's units in rest is 2 or more, it gets plus 5,000 shield. So essentially, if they're attacking with their Vanguard and it's boosted, then you immediately get the 20k shield. So it's very easy to pull off, and that 20k does help in a lot of situations. Next G Guardian we have is 1 Dark Element Dismal. When it's placed on Guardian, you choose one of your rear guards, and until end of turn, it can't be hit, and it can't be chosen by effects of your opponent's cards. So essentially it gives a rearguard resist, and it also has resist itself, so it's very, very good. And then the last G-Guardian and last stride of this deck is Metal Element Screw. You choose a card from your hand and discard it, and when it's placed on Guardian Circle, if you have at least one other card face up in your G-Zone, you can give him an extra 10,000, turning him from a 15 to a 25, which is very, very good. So, okay. That is my Mega Colony Giraffa deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you enjoy my amazing new playmat. Shout out to Bailey for getting this thing for me. I think that just about settles it. This has been Mack from Team Cardfighters United, and remember, meta is disgusting.